The hard truth of this election is that President Obama will lose to Mitt Romney among male voters, which means to offset this, he must win the female vote by a larger margin, something that seemed almost a given 2 months ago. But in recent weeks, Romney was gaining on the president among women, closing the margin to 8 points. But that was all before the Romney-endorsed Richard Murdoch made his now infamous rape comments. For more on how Murdoch's comments will affect the gender gap, I'm joined by Margie Omero, president of Momentum Analysis, and Sam Seder, host of Ring of Fire and The Majority Report. Thank you both for joining us tonight. Margie, let me begin with you. Has this Murdoch statement, this horrendous statement that is captivating at least the cable news tonight, has it erased a month of hard work by Mitt Romney to move to the center and become moderate?
Well, Mitt Romney has a variety of problems. I mean, and Richard Murdoch, the thing that makes it an immediate problem is now you're going to have the news dominated by where is Mitt Romney on women's issues. And when that's the subject of the news, that's a bad day for Mitt Romney because he's, one, inconsistent on issues of abortion, and two, frequently on the wrong side of public opinion. So he's been very out front for Murdoch. It's the only candidate he's cut an ad for, which started to air right at the same time as he was making these comments. So it really puts the Romney team off their message, on the back foot, and it's a good day to remind voters around the country, not of the inside political back and forth of Murdoch and endorsements and all of that, but which party is really agrees with women, supports women, not interested in penalizing and punishing women who are rape victims. I mean, those are pretty basic American values.
Sam, it seems to me that Margie's right. Any day that Mitt Romney's talking about something other than the economy and jobs, he's losing ground. In the debate this week, he basically conceded every foreign policy issue to President Obama merely to take those issues off the table. So this has got to be a huge blow to their game plan for the last 2 weeks.
I think so. There's just no way that you want to spend the closing argument having to defend yourself about the one guy you cut an ad for in this cycle on the federal level. And I think it also brings up another point that, this is no longer the margins of the Republican Party. We have two now senatorial candidates coming out with these comments sort of invalidating the concept of rape. And so this begins, I think, to put the question in some people's minds of, is Mitt Romney, forget about what his position is this week or this day on these things.
And of course, those change hour to hour.
Absolutely, of course. But the point is, it really doesn't matter because he is beholden to the same people who are basically nominating these type of what we consider fringe people. But this has become the mainstream Republican thought at this point.
And it's not just two Senate candidates either. It's Congressman Steve King from Iowa who agreed with Aiken in the wake of his comments. It's legislators around the country. There's one legislator who said, well, I have a spare tire in my trunk, so women should have an abortion rider on their insurance in case they get raped. I mean, there are legislators around the country who have walked into these kinds of comments. I mean, you have Paul Ryan who called rape a mode of conception. So this isn't just about the odd candidate here or there. And I think that's an important connective fabric here that we need to really get across.
Well, that's exactly right. But it does raise in my mind the question, who are the women who are still voting for Mitt Romney? Are they not pro-choice, in which case a comment like this, even if they're not as far afield from mainstream thought as the comment from Murdoch, nonetheless, they're not pro-choice, so this isn't so jarring? Or are they pro-choice but believe Romney on economic issues, for instance, and so they'll forgive him his perspective until they hear this? In other words, how many votes will be changed because of this? Sam, do we know who they are?
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that we know who they are. I mean, because I think to think about this in the terms of just pro-choice issues is, I think, too narrow. I mean, can you imagine if he had simply said something like, every time one of our military personnel gets shot, that's God's intent. When 3,000 people die in a terrorist attack, that's God's intent. I mean, this shows a fundamental sort of negation of women in some fundamental way that goes beyond the question of abortion. I think there are still some people out there who can put in silos the economy or what they perceive as their problems with President Obama and these issues, but I think that number's got to get smaller.
Look, I agree with you. The horrendous nature of this statement raises much more fundamental questions about thought patterns, the way you see society, civil rights. Having said that, with 2 weeks to go until the presidential election, I am trying to sort of get my arms around who will actually have a vote changed because of this, or are we just two camps already screaming at each other? Margie, do you know, how do you zero in? They talk a lot about these Walmart moms. moms who may be pro-choice or not, but the economic issues drive them. And for them, a statement like this may be jarring enough to make them lose that moniker.
Well, as you know, I've studied Walmart moms extensively over the last few years. I've done nearly 24 qualitative sessions and focus groups with them. And you're right, this is not, whether you're talking about Walmart moms or women generally, ultimately they're going to be voting based on which candidate they feel can improve their personal situation. And a lot of times when Walmart moms specifically hear a lot of bickering about social issues, they feel that that's a sign that candidates don't really get the urgency of their daily lives. And I think that's an important thing to remember. I do think, to the extent that moms have an opinion on some of these issues, they lean left, and so that's why some of these issues. That's why you see Mitt Romney backing away or trying to distance himself from Murdoch so quickly. I think ultimately, though, both on the left and on the right, the number one issue is going to be the economy. The number one issue is which candidate can really speak to your daily struggle and understand your shared struggle. And I think that's where some of these women's issues, not just abortion, but equal pay, healthcare, education, really can shine a light on which candidate is really paying attention to working class people and middle class people.
I want to do something that may be hard, which is to think about a post-November 6th world, and come back to your point, Sam, about what this reflects about this perspective becoming almost mainstream thought within the Republican Party. Where does the Republican Party go on these social issues post-November 6th? Is the Tea Party and the conservative theological wing of that party getting so strong within their camp that this is a portent of things to come?
Oh, I think that ship has sailed. I mean, I really think that the only difference between hearing these from Burdick or from Aiken and 5 or 6 years ago is simply that these guys are not savvy enough to blow the dog whistle. I mean, I think that's the only difference. I think the Republican Party, I think they move further to the right after the election.
Margie, real quick, time runs short. Will the Republican Party lose those Walmart moms whom you've studied so much if that, in fact, if what Sam says actually happens?
I think overall, if you're looking at women, you see Obama's continued to have a strong lead among women. We're not going to know until after the election which way Walmart moms break. I think both candidates tried in the last debate to really try and speak to the moms, even in the context of foreign policy, really try to talk about it through the lens of domestic policy, and they got that. And now it's just a question of will the current climate in the next few days have the Romney team on the back foot, or are we going to continue to have a conversation about the economy?
Yep. All right. President of Momentum Analysis, Margie Omero, host of Ring of Fire and the Majority Report, Sam Seder. Thank you both for your insights tonight. Great to have you on the show. Mitt Romney.